welcome to the second version of our webinar. So my name is Boris, and together with me, helping me today during the webinar is also Eva. Eva, can you say hi again?
Hello everyone from me.
Yeah, so she's going to be helping me with your reactions, your questions, etc. So today we want to continue the discussion and continue the topic about data visualization, because that was something that we discussed the last time. So again, my name is Boris. I run a company that's called 356 Labs. We are a presentation agency, and the only thing that we do is we help our clients write, design, and deliver what we call truly effective presentations. And for some reason, maybe we're just too good at what we do, we are privileged to work on some of the most critical presentations on the market for some of the biggest brands out there. So if you have any question in regards to what we do, how we do it, please, I'll leave it for the end of the call, or just shoot us an email. First of all, I want to start with a question that we received. We received every single time when you register for one of our webinars, you receive an email from our marketing team asking you, what do you want us to cover? I don't know how many of you have seen that pre-webinar survey, as we call it, but that is something that you can always fill in, because it gives us context on what we should be covering. One of the questions in that pre-training survey by somebody who potentially is on this call is, how do we use colors when we are visualizing data and when we are visualizing charts? And I'll put it this way: stay with us in the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and you will find the answer to that question. And then actually here is the question. So this was the question that we received: how do we use colors in charts? And this is another one which was very interesting to me, at least. I will have to be honest. So this thing, the IBCS, the International Business Communication Standards, is something that, to be completely honest with you guys, I haven't heard about. However, it's very, very interesting in regards to what those guys want to do and what they cover. So I'll just give you a glimpse of what this document and how this document looks like. I'll open it on my screen right now. Just give me a second. So it's a PDF, and I struggle to download that PDF. So just to give you context, when you log into their website, you have to create a profile. And when you create a profile, you receive an email, confirmation email. And in that email, at the bottom of the email, there is actually a promo code that gives you the opportunity to download that PDF file for free. Otherwise, it's 50 bucks. So just be careful when you log in, register, monitor carefully the emails, because the promo code is not that visible. But this thing is absolutely interesting, I would say. And the question from you guys was, what do we think? Should we do that? Should we apply everything that those guys here are suggesting? And again, to be completely honest and start with that question, just to give you kind of a glimpse of how this document looks like and how detailed it is, there are some really interesting things here. I still don't have my final opinion on it, because I didn't have the time to consume the whole document. However, what they are trying to do is kind of suggest a standard of how should we visualize data. Now, that is a tricky one, because they are also comparing it with architecture, with music, and with many other things. And my first and initial response to this was that, wait a minute, it's very hard to say that there is one and only one proper way of doing things, which these guys are trying, this institution is trying to do. I'm kind of worried that that is not possible in the business world. I will also say something that worries me here. You will find it after a second. Let me just show you the charts. Otherwise, brilliant document, at least from what I saw. I'll show you one thing that really worries me here. Otherwise, I agree with so much of what is written here. I highly recommend everybody download this otherwise free document and take a look at it. So here in one moment, you will see a place, here it is. There is a moment where they suggest that we should ditch and we should kill pie charts and donut charts. So this is the place. Now, that is very tricky. I am not sure that I and our customers will be okay with that. I understand that there are two groups of people who, one of them believes that pie charts are evil, one of them says, no, they're not evil. And here, implementing a standard saying, hey, we should ditch and forget about pie charts forever, I don't want to get to that extremes personally. So I really love the document. I really love the idea. It's just that there are some suggestions, there are some ideas, plus I haven't read it till the end, that I'm not completely sure that I'll agree with. So that is my initial take on that document. Again, I would highly recommend everyone who is dealing with data visualization take a look at it, because indeed it is a fascinating read and has some really great practices and tips and tricks inside of it. So let me go back to our presentation for now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that ditching totally pie charts is maybe not the best idea. I just had a call actually like 30 minutes ago with a client, and we were discussing exactly that. So not always, it's not going to work for everyone. I mean, people are also used to seeing pie charts, so that might be tricky to do. So be careful with that.
Yeah, and there is also another very interesting point, I believe, in that document. They suggest a standard, and don't get me wrong, if you work inside of this office, you will know that I am a process type of person. I like everything to be written down, to have and follow a process, etc. However, they compare the standard with the rules and the signs on the roads. When you see a sign in Bulgaria or in the UK, the sign means the same thing, right? However, if you think about it carefully, you are teaching, you get through a training to learn those signs and to learn the language of the roads. Let's put it this way. I personally am not sure how many people are going through training to learn about presentation design, to learn about presentations, to learn about data visualization, not to mention standards related only and completely to data visualization. So that being said, I am not sure how we will manage to do that as standard, because we have to train every business person, which is very interesting, at least in my opinion. I don't know how that could happen, but I'm willing to see the person who is going to embark on that journey for sure. To quickly do a quick recap on what we covered the last time. So the last time, which is going to be brand new for the other 50% of the room. So the last time we started by talking and exploring what are the chart types, what are the possible chart types. And we said, hey, there are some that are very common in the business world, and we have to strive to use those. We also talked about the fact that there are a ton of charts, right? There are just a ton of options on them, not on the market, but available to us as data people or as presenters or as public speakers or as agencies that are building those presentations. However, we didn't get into the detail of each one of those. So we were planning to do a webinar on those topics in the future. And if you say that you are interested, we are going to probably listen in the same way as we did right now, because that webinar right now is actually coming from you guys and you saying, hey, we want a topic, we want a webinar on that topic. Then we also talked about what is the difference when you present and when you're building a chart for exploratory purposes versus explanatory. Just to kind of remind you guys, when we were in the exploratory mode, we are actually visualizing something that you can see on dashboards, documents, whatever. And there the key phrase was discovering, right? You see a visualization or you build a visualization in the other side of the room, or the person on the other side of the computer looks at the data, looks at the table, looks at the chart, and starts to discover insights for themselves and by themselves. This is one way of us consuming data. The other one was explanatory, something that you should be seeing. I am saying you should be seeing in presentations. In that mode, the main idea, the main goal of every visualization is to give you a message, to convey a message that you understand like this, very, very quickly. You see it, you see a chart, and it's like this. It's so quick, you don't have any other option but to understand it. Now, in order for us to do that, we said, hey, we need to ask some questions. We need to say, who is going to be our audience? Who are those people? What biases do they have, etc.? What is exactly the point that I want to make? If I don't know what point I want to make, that's a problem, and you have to rethink that. And then we said, okay, now that I know who the audience is and what I want to convey as a message, what will be the chart and what will be the best visualization for me to do it, right? Also, we discussed that these type of visualizations are problematic, right? When you are presenting some data, be that as simple as this one, you have to you have to remember that the source of the data should always be somehow displayed, or at least you as the presenter should mention it. Because last time I also shared a story where a person didn't say what the source of the data was. They got a question from the audience and some really dangerous things happen in that room. Then we also talked about some other tricks that many times we put titles like those. These are now fake numbers for those of you who are not part of the first webinar. These are completely fake. That's why there is no source on them. So what we discussed here is that many times what we do is we put a title on our charts that says revenue per course, right? However, when I put a chart, when I put a title like this, I'm not sure as a consumer, as the audience, what exactly is the message. I can extract so many messages from here and so many insights that if I start presenting all of them, your brain will start to hurt, right? There are so many things that I see in that simple bar chart. And the trick here was that if we know what message we want to convey, we want to use the title to convey that message, breaking the rule more or less of slide design, where we are striving for simplicity. We are able to use the title and just change the text in the title of the chart in the way that the title itself actually tells you and gives you the message. This way, once I see the title, I'm now looking for confirmation in the data. I'm not exploring the data anymore. I'm not searching for anything. I know what you want to say with that chart or table, whatever it is, not with the table, but with the chart or a graph. I see it in the chart, and then I return the attention back to the speaker. Very easy trick, very effective. Some people call it action title. You can see it in the blogs, in the literature, in the books, whatever. Some people call it summary title, but they mean the same. And some people call it a takeaway title. So I don't have anything against anybody that figured out those namings, those terms. I like them all, and I would kind of support everybody to tell and share that trick in any way that you like. Use any of those phrases that you like. And then at the end of the presentation, we talked about the fact that we want to simplify each chart, each graph, so that it is super easy to read, super easy to consume. But we quoted a really important person, really popular person in the data visualization community called Alberto Cairo, who presented for the Presentation Guild. Again, kudos to the Presentation Guild. If you don't know who those guys are, presentationguild.org. Take a look at those guys. We are also there. This is the place on the web where you can find like-minded people, right? People that care about presentations. Let's put it this way. So again, very great webinar by the Presentation Guild with Alberto Cairo, where he said that the main idea when we're building a chart is not to simplify something. It's not to kind of remove things with the only idea to simplify a chart. He said that it's better idea, it's a better way to think that we want to clarify a point, to clarify a message. And once we are aiming to clarify a message and make it as easy as possible for the audience to understand, then the beauty part, the design part comes as a byproduct of all of this. I found that quote brilliant and genius, as all of the work that Alberto Cairo is doing in that space. So highly recommend for you to check him out also if you don't know who he is still. Now, today we said, hey, let's talk a bit more about, that sounds like this person from the Silicon Valley, Jin Yang, a bit more. So this talk was all about bar charts. We said, hey, let's talk a bit about bar charts in this evening, at least in Bulgaria and in Europe. And the last time we said that, hey, bar charts are super easy to use. Many people are using them, very familiar to everybody into the business world. And we use them to compare values, right? Be that a column chart or be that a bar chart. However, there are some problems with those type of visualizations. And of course, we cannot cover everything, but I just want to show you some tips and tricks and some things that you have to think about when you're presenting a bar chart, when you're preparing to display, to create a bar chart. And the first one is this one. This one is a really worrying one, and we see it with almost all of our clients very, very often. This is when you have some bars. Again, the data is fake, so don't get crazy bonkers on it. The problem here is, if you carefully look at the bottom part of the chart, you see that the category names cannot be displayed. And the reason why they cannot be displayed is mostly, and most of the times, because the name of the category is too long to be displayed, right? So one of the options for you to fix that is to say, oh, sure, Boris, then let's make it smaller, right? And if I make it smaller, sure, it can work. I'm not saying it's not working. You can now see them completely, and everything is readable. It's definitely better, right? Absolutely better. What's more, you can go even one step further and make them even smaller, so that you kind of try to push them on one line, or at least most of them to be on one line. However, what we talked about here last time was that one of the easiest fixes for those situations is a very simple one, and it's all related to us changing this bar chart to a column chart, right? Very easy this column chart to a bar chart, actually. So the main idea here is that if I just go and change the chart type, if I go to this chart and just go to the chart design, I can go to the chart type. Let me pin my menu also after a second. And I can go and say, okay, give me that one, give me that option. And the reason why I want that option, I pin the menu for afterwards. The reason why I want this option is because once I do it, it becomes way, way easier for me to read. Now, and there is no way for the category to be squashed a bit, right? So this is something that's a very easy trick, very quick trick to fix something like this. And of course, here I can still make it smaller, etc. Now, what you are seeing here, however, is very interesting, I would say. That is one read of the chart. Here is how it looks, right? You have the grid, you have the guides, you have the bars, you see the values underneath, and you can say, wait a minute, that is one option to visualize the data, and I would agree. The main idea here is to kind of show you and maybe even inspire you with some examples of how one and the same thing can be visualized in different ways. And you can say, wait a minute, why don't we do it this way then, if we want the numbers to be very close? Because if you go back, what we are asking people to do is to kind of go and see the length of the bar and then go down to kind of check what the number is. So if we want to stress on the numbers, maybe we can put them as part of the chart and as part of the bars. Maybe we can even bring them inside of the bars, because these are data labels, and you can just say, hey, go to the inside end of the bar. And from here, you can say, okay, can I tune this even further? What are my options to tune that even further? And you can say, many people say that visuals are something that's very, very important. So let's try to add visuals to kind of support that message. And if you go there, you'll see that you can add those little icons on the left-hand side, which kind of support what storytelling is, presenting virtually with the webcam, presentation skills with the code, all of those things. So the idea of icons is something that you may want to explore if you haven't explored it up until now, both for bar charts, but also for line charts and many others. And just to give you context of how that may look like if we put the numbers inside, that's yet another read of the same, right? You see how many options there are. And by the way, if I ask you now, guys, which one was your favorite one? Let's try this actually. So which one up until now was your favorite one? And before that, let me show you one more. So here is one other read of the same chart. So which one was your favorite one up until now? Like, let me know in the chat for a second so that I stop talking for a second. So Eva will help me out. So which one did you like most?
I guess it depends also on the kind of the level of minimalism that you want to get to.
Yeah, and the focus that...
Yeah, so we have an answer, the one without the icons and the values at the right. So it's the one without the icons, yeah.
Yeah, so that's that one, yeah.
Somebody saying the
So
last one. Girgana is saying the last one.
this
Yeah,
one?
this one.
Yeah, you may have seen something like this. By the way, in order for you to achieve that, these are now, just to give you context, this is, you cannot achieve that natively in PowerPoint, unfortunately. These are separate shapes, meaning the chart is a chart, as you can see, chart design. However, those are text boxes. So in order for you to achieve that design, you have to kind of play a bit more with the presentation. You don't have any other option here. You cannot build that natively in PowerPoint. It's just a matter of you playing a bit with it. Now, what you may notice in this chart, and for those of you who are very familiar and are very passionate about presentations, what you may end up saying to yourself is, wait a minute, I think I have seen this one somewhere. And you'll be right.
Slightly different, but yeah.
Slightly different, that is true, slightly different. However, if you carefully look at an iPhone launch, when they are presenting the performance of all of the devices, you see that always on top is the iPhone and everybody else is underneath the iPhone, but the bar chart was looking more or less the same in terms of the style and how it was created. So just giving context of that, if you are saying to yourself, wait a minute, I have seen that somewhere. So that is the thing. Okay, do we have any other?
Yeah, so basically people are saying that they like the version with no icons and values outside or inside.
Okay, that is good to know, by the way. This one, but maybe without icons, right?
Yep. By the way, something that you can also try to use, because now we're doing it for a client, for example, once you introduce the icons, you can then, if you have more charts following up that charts, maybe you can use only the icons instead of using the text and the icons, because people will already have a kind of way to create that visual map.
Yeah, that is interesting suggestion, by the way. Be careful with, because I know what Eva is talking about, and in this case, you have to be careful about what the images are, because I would personally say that that when we were building this deck for the webinar, we tested out an option of that chart without the category names, and trust me, it is unreadable. In Eva's presentation, what she's pointing is, maybe Eva, you should say what exactly are the icons, because that will give context to everybody. And it will explain why your approach will work. What are the icons? How they look?
So basically the icons are recreations of products, because it's for a company. It's for a company that is making like very, very famous products that everyone knows, but the presentation itself is going to be delivered in front of that company. So they're going to make a very, very quick relation with those icons. That's why we can actually make sure that even if we use only the icons, they're going to know what we are talking about. So from that perspective, you're right. I'm just giving it as a kind of suggestion, because that's something that might work for
in some cases. In some cases, and then you go back again to the standard that we discussed at the beginning. It's very interesting how we are going to say, this is the only way for you to visualize that data, and it's over. It's very interesting discussion, I think. One that for sure has to happen, but again, maybe for some other time. So here there is a question that I really wanted to ask, so that I show you the second problem. We discussed something like this in the previous webinar. So just to give you quick context, I want you to let me know in the chat window, for those of you who have, especially for those of you who haven't been part of the webinar last time, what do you think is the number for March and April? Just shoot up a number. Do you believe that March and April are equal or are not equal or different? And what is the value for those bars? Like, what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat window. So again, Eva, you'll be helping me out here.
So we have an answer 2.
Okay. Someone is saying 2. Are they the same? Is someone saying that they are the same?
Equal 1.8.
1.8, but equal? Sure.
They're not the same.
Okay.
Awful chart, 2.5. March is slightly higher than April.
Okay.
Interesting.
Interesting, for sure. So just to give you context,
equal 1.92. So basically answers are going between 1.8 and 2.5 even.
Yeah, but many people are saying that they're equal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to guys give you context, this is the problem with the so-called 3D in PowerPoint, and that problem is absolutely everywhere in pie charts, bar charts, whatever. The problem is that you cannot, if you are looking at those very quickly, you will be stunned that you are not right with your guesses. They're actually two, both of them, they're equal. And that effect is something that we recommended that you should not be using, except if, and we'll still not recommend it, except if you don't want to kind of mess up and mess around with the audience for some reason. I would say that that's not a good idea most of the times, but again, it's up to you. You're the presenter, so feel free to do whatever you like. If you wish to kind of convey a message in some very convoluted way, and kind of say to the audience something that you may not present to the audience, something that is not exactly as it is, maybe 3D is the way to go. But overall, go ahead, and if you are seeing 3D around you, and if you have been creating 3D charts or pie charts or bar charts, whatever, try to limit those very much. Like, try to limit those and share with the people around you. So that chart can look like this very, very easily, with nothing else here. And now I want to show you something else. I will add some more bars here. And here on the topic of color, it becomes very interesting, I think, back on the first question. And here you will see that we want to stress on the upcoming months, right? July, August, or whatever. And you will see that only those bars are with very, very bluish, like they're very contrasting, and you can see them very easily. What we have done here, and what I would highly recommend you do when you don't want the audience to focus on some of the chart, but the chart to be of some of the data, but the data to still be there, is to kind of make those bars, make those lines or whatever you're using almost the color of the background, so that they almost merge with the background. In this case, we have used light blue color, but most of the times when you're on a white background or on a gray background, you may want to export the gray color also. But again, also desaturated and very light color of the same color as the chart is also an option, as you can see. Now here, I'm just giving you context about how we use color to kind of emphasize things. And I here want to show you another option for you if the message and if what you want to convey to the audience that you're presenting to is the total number, right? What you can do here, and this is something that's very, very easy, on top of those bars, what we have done here is just created a shape, right? This is a rectangle. This is from insert shape, to give you context. This is a shape here. Let me catch it. So this is a shape, a rectangle that was created by choosing blue color, and then from, let me see my screen, from the format shape and from the fill button, you see that the transparency was not 100%, because if it's 100, it will be white, and it's not a solid color, but it was placed on 83, right? So it's kind of transparent. And on top, we have a text box. So this is one way for you to very easily showcase and kind of present a total or some type of calculation across some of the bars. Just the shape, text box on top of it works very, very well. Now, here I want to kind of go to yet another problem that we have seen a few months ago, a year ago or something. So let me know what's the problem here very quickly. Do you see a problem, and what is the problem? Very quickly, like, go ahead in the chat. Let's see, Eva, help me out again.
Yep, we're waiting. No December, missing
No
December. Yep, people are saying that they're missing December.
So take a look, let's stop it here. Take a look how crazy this is. You're saying it's missing December. Do you see the July?
Yeah, there were people saying that there is no July, and June doesn't match the format. Okay, no July. Yep, so some people are saying that there is no July.
So guys, this is something that we recently have seen, be that recently 6 months ago, whatever it was, with a bank, where one of the bars was missing. And once we saw it, we were like, that is kind of strange if you think about it. Like, why would one of the bars be not present? And in their case, what you will see is that it's not present because they don't want to show something, right? So I would highly advise you to be on very aware and very kind of open to seek for those problems in visualizations and in data, because you may not see it very easily. And once you see January, February, March, you're like, okay, these are the months, right? So you very quickly go and say, everything looks very well in the last 6 months. We are going up, right? Be extremely careful. You can see that also with line charts, where you see months or you see the days of the weeks or some periods of time which are missing, and you are like, wait a minute, that is very, very strange. Why is that missing? And most of the times, at least what we have seen, is because there was some kind of dip and there was a problem with the company, the sales team, or whatever, not meeting a KPI, and they didn't want to show it. So be extremely mindful for those things. Now, two more things, and let's wrap this up. So here is another case. Let's imagine that this webinar is going so well and that we are a public company for some reason, that our stock and the price of our stock rises dramatically after this webinar, tomorrow or on Friday, right? However, what you see here in this case is something that you probably guess, and that is that the y-axis currently is set to 0, which is the way it should be, right? You have to be monitoring for the cases where the y-axis does not start with 0, because that can confuse that, and that can make the data look very, very strange. You can see that, by the way, very often when you see presidential elections and stuff like that. Monitor for those in the upcoming months. Also for missing data, monitor for 3D charts. You will be shocked how many 3D charts are going to be used in the presidential elections, especially in the countries that there will be presidential elections in the upcoming months. However, here you see an example where if I start the y-axis from 0, I cannot see clearly the difference, right? It's very hard for me to see the difference. And here is one of the exceptions. And when you, for example, show something like stock prices or something that changes with very little, in order for you to showcase that difference, you have to tune the chart and make it start not from 0. This moment makes it kind of makes sense, right? It kind of makes sense for you to change the y-axis and say, nope, that's not going to work. Let me change this. And for those of you who haven't explored this, just to kind of give you context, if you have the y-axis, if you just click on it and you go to the options there, on the axis options, you can control it and kind of tune it even further. However, if you don't have this y-axis here, you have to first add it, right? You have to go to the chart, add chart element axis, and say, hey, give me the primary vertical. In this case, it will disappear because it exists. And then you'll be able to fine tune those options. Just giving you context about that. However, when we talk about stock, we say, hey, wait a minute, these are the stock options, and this is something that's going through time, right? So why don't we use a line chart or something similar? So that's why you may want to convert it to something like this, right? And do something similar. Of course, there could be many other reads. Of course, you may say, wait a minute, why don't we do it like this and remove the guides? Sorry, it's kind of late already here in Bulgaria. So why don't we remove the guide? So just to give you context about the difference, right? In the first one, I would choose that one if I still want the audience to be able to quickly see what was the chart, what was the price on Tuesday, what was the price on Wednesday, etc. And I will remove them. I will remove the guides if for some reason I just want to focus their attention to the spike and to the end value, the current value, and what we have at the end on Friday, meaning tomorrow. So this is something that may be also useful. Now, one last thing. Now, this chart is actually a bar chart, which is, I would say, very interesting. And I want to show you how it was built, because you can see cases where you may want to kind of play around with the data. You know that the audience is not like the most corporate people on the planet, or you just have a case where the stars really have meaning, let's say. So just to give you context of how this was built, because it's, at least for me, is very interesting to kind of see that this chart here, if you go on it, let me kind of hide some things here. So if you go on the chart, you will see that that is a chart, right? If I go on the chart type, you actually see that in this case, wait a minute, is just this one. It is a stacked bar chart. So that was what was used to this one actually, a stacked chart. So to give you context about that, let me show you the data. And then I'll show you how it was created. So just so that you know that I'm not lying, it is a stacked chart, nothing special. So if I show you how this works, if I go and say, wait a minute, give me the formatting options, let me change the colors of those. So if I click on those, the stars, the first category stuff, you will see that if I go and choose a color and I change the color to, let's say, dark blue or our blue, you will see that these are really a chart. And if I go then back and say, wait a minute, let me go and say, give me the orange, right? This really is a chart. However, you have to know about something else. What was changed here was that once you click on these bars, what you can do is go to the options and choose a picture or texture fill, which is very, very interesting. Once you go there, you can say, no, give me a picture. You have to have that picture as a separate file, meaning in our case, you have to have the icon in a separate file. So let me go to the bar charts, let me go to materials, and I'll use the yellow star, right? And what's more, by default, the chart won't be set like this, meaning that the options here won't be set like this, but they are going to be set to stretch. And that may shock you at the beginning. So don't worry about it. You just have to go and say stack and scale the width, scale width. So this is something that you can do and explore with other icons that you can find on Noun Project, Flat Icon, what else? Icon Finder, and many, many others. And so if I want to change that one also, I can go and say not pattern field, but picture, go to a picture source from a file, we use the gray, right? And here you go, you have something that's a bit more, it's just a bit different, but in this context, it's very easy to build. So I would highly recommend you test it out when you have the case to test it out, right? It's not now you shouldn't be thinking about, wait a minute, now everything will be bars that are actually full of bikes or full of stacks of money or something like this. Only if there is meaning behind it, only if it will bring value to the overall message that you're delivering. So that is something that you can also explore. A stack chart, and then you change the bars with the values with a picture and stretch it. Let me see the option again, stretch and scale width. So that is something that you can explore. So with that, I promised you that this time we will be quicker. Ivan, let's take one question, and then all of the other questions we'll answer over email after that event. So do we have any questions?
So,
or everyone is happy?
So far, no. It looks like everyone is happy. I have a guest here, Zara.
Oh!
He's joined the event. So if anyone has any questions for Zara, although maybe she won't be able to answer those, but
she's not engaged, I think.
Yeah, she's not really engaged with today's webinar. But if you guys have any questions, we can take on some now.
Yeah, if there are some questions, let me know in the next 30 seconds or so. If not, thank you very much, guys, for joining. I hope that what you have seen kind of give you some other ideas on how to visualize data. And I think that the next steps here is that even though a summer is upcoming, I think that it's not a problem for you to kind of try and test those things and try and test those tips or tricks, or no matter how you may want to call it, because again, we always believe that everything that we show and everything that we kind of strive to share from our experience with our customers is something that will help you out to communicate even better in the future. So I hope that you found that useful. So thank you very much, guys. Again, short webinar, but I hope really that you found something for you, something interesting, reminded yourself something. So now is the moment for you to test it out in an upcoming presentation. And surely, if you have any question in regards to presentations, just shoot us an email or just call us. You know how to reach 356labs.com.